What is up, YouTube? My name's Anna, and this is Anna Does Money, a channel where I talk about money making and money saving strategies, as well as my personal debt recovery journey. If you've seen my last video, you'll know there's been a lot of drama going on in my personal work life, and I haven't been able to do a proper debt update video in a few months. So now that it's been about 6 months since I've started this debt update video, I thought it was a good opportunity to 1, show you how much I've paid off so far, and 2, give you some tips on what has and hasn't worked for me so far. I'm going to switch up the order of how I usually present my debt updates, and this time I'm going to jump straight into how much of my debt has been paid off, since that's what I think most of you are here for. On March 1st, I started off with just under $100,000 in total debt. $27,500 was in credit card debt. There was about $15,000 in a personal loan, and the remainder, about $57,000, was my student loan. 6 months later, as of September 1st, 2021, my debt has been reduced to $85,500, so just about $14,500 paid off so far. The student loan and personal loan are much lower interest rate. My student loan is actually pretty much 0% interest rate. So I've really been focusing on paying off the credit card debt, which is a very high interest rate, and only paying the minimums on my personal loan and my student loan. So my total credit card debt across 5 credit cards has now gone down to $18,500, just about. So I've paid off $9,000 in credit card debt. I'm definitely proud of that amount, but I know had I stuck to my budget throughout this entire 6 months, I would have paid off even more. If you'll see, like a month of June, where my credit card debt actually went up. So I was still overspending. But you live and you learn of what works for you, and that's why I kind of want to jump into a little bit of tips on what's worked for me and what hasn't worked, so maybe that can help you as well. Number 1, write down your budget and track it throughout the entire month. This may seem super obvious, but for the first few months of my debt recovery journey, I was actually just kind of winging it. I had a rough idea of what I wanted to spend for food, housing, entertainment, etc. But when I would tally it up at the end of the month, I would always end up being over. And I think a big reason is because I wasn't as good at mentally calculating how much I was spending as I thought it was. So write down your budget. I use Mint, a budgeting app, but using old-fashioned pen and paper also does the trick, as long as you're keeping on top of what you're actually spending. Like whether that's doing it on a daily basis or doing it on a weekly basis, find what works for you, but try to track throughout the entire month, at least until you get really good about your spending. You can also use cash envelopes. I know a lot of other finance YouTubers talk about it. I personally don't use cash envelopes because most of my bill payments and other payments come out of my bank accounts automatically, so it really wouldn't make sense to take it out in cash and then just put it back. But I know that method works for a lot of people, so I did want to mention it here as well. Number 2, leave room for miscellaneous expenses in your budget. Every month, chances are you're gonna have expenses that you didn't expect. It could be small things like you ran out of shampoo or garbage bags that you had to pick up, things that won't necessarily come up every single month, so it wouldn't make sense to have a budget line just dedicated to it, but you just kind of group everything together in a miscellaneous expenses category. I found this has made me far less stressed at the end of the month when all these little things weren't accounted for and I was coming in over budget. The amount that you need for miscellaneous expenses will vary from person to person. I started with about $50 and then kind of adjusted from there, but you'll have to play around and see what makes sense for you. I'm not including any large expenses, say like a car repair or other large bills. For that, you should probably have separate sinking funds or use some of your emergency money for those purchases. This is more for those small little things. Number 3, find a way to downsize. This can mean a lot of things. It can mean moving into a smaller apartment so you can put more money towards debt repayment. And if your larger expenses like your car or your house aren't really an option, take a look at some of those wants that you may have. I find over time we all accumulate subscriptions. Things like Netflix and HBO and Disney Plus and Audible and this other subscription box you ordered one time and forgot to cancel. That all adds up. And it may seem like a few dollars here and there, but when I tallied it up, it turned out that I was spending like $200 a month on all of these little subscriptions. And that's a really easy way to start cutting back. Think about, do you really use that subscription service? And if you do, is there a way to have a free alternative? For example, if it is audiobooks that you're getting, can you get free audiobooks from your local library instead? What I realized over time is a lot of these things I didn't actually need to bring me happiness. It really didn't affect my quality of life that much. Sometimes I even make it a game and a challenge for myself every month to see how low can I go and how little can I actually spend. Number 4, don't fall into social media FOMO. So FOMO, if you don't know, is fear of missing out. This is easier said than done. And if I'm honest, I continue to struggle with this. I was the queen of impulse buying. These marketing campaigns are targeted to make you want to buy, especially now that our phones are learning all of this information about how old you are, what your preferences are you sporty, do you like this particular aesthetic? And those advertisements will be tailored specifically to you. So yeah, it's made to be tough. It's made to be difficult to avoid those things. I would always be sucked into the latest trends or aesthetics and want to revamp my entire life to suit it. What helped me is when I felt that urge to impulse buy, I would wait a week to buy that item. And usually within that amount of time, that high, that energy of feeling like I really needed this item in my life would pass, and I would be a little bit more rational and realize, you know what, I don't really need this. And the second thing is, remember that you don't have the money to buy this. Think about what the true financial sacrifice will mean for you to get this item. How many other things do you have to cut out of your life in order to afford this? Because remember, credit card money is not money that you own. And if you're in debt like me, you have no money. You're done. So don't even think about it. It's not worth it. And plus, think of the environment. We have made enough clothes to clothe the whole world for generations and generations to come. We don't need more fast fashion. We don't need more clothes. We don't need more stuff. Most of us have so much more than enough. Finally, I want to talk about peer pressure and honesty with your close family and friends. Temptation for friends to go to the movies or go out to dinner or go traveling are always going to happen. I try to remind myself that those opportunities are still going to be there once I'm out of debt. It's worth sacrificing those few opportunities now for the financial stability that you'll feel later and all the stress relief that goes along with financial stability. Because I'm sure if you're in debt, you're stressed about it. I've had trouble divulging the full extent of my debt with my partner. He knew I had a personal loan and a student loan, but didn't really know much about my credit card debt. And I didn't share that because I was actually really embarrassed, as I can imagine a lot of you are. And I've received some great comments about it, and you're all right. If it's somebody that I am now living with and we're building this whole life together, it's important to share the financial situation and come into it totally honest. That way you can work together as a team. I'm not saying you have to do this with all your close friends, but you should have someone you can confide in about your debt situation. In conclusion, I just want to say that I don't know if any of this will work for you. I think each of us are on our own financial journey, and what works for me may not necessarily work for you, and that's okay. But just know that not every month is going to be perfect, but what's important is that you're learning every single time and improving how you manage your finances. I didn't want to start this channel when I was already out of debt and already, investing in all these properties and having all this income come in. I know I will get there, but I want to share the struggles and the truth behind what it took to get there. So when I do reach that level, I want people to be able to go back and see the struggles as well and know that it's okay and that you will get there and it is possible. All right, I think that's gonna be it for today. If you've enjoyed this video, please leave me a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you next week on Anna Does Money. Peace out, dudes.